Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent role-playing game. This week I'm taking a look at a turn-based roguelike with a quick playstyle and a retro console look, Shadowcrawl: The Dark Pilgrimage. Developed and published by Wicked Cake Games, it was released on Steam way back on August 8th, 2018. Shadowcrawl is an interesting one. It's an RPG light, but not as light as many things that I've been covering lately. It's turn-based, but it plays almost like an action game, and it's retro console styled, but not in the typical 8-bit RPG era style, more like a retro arcade style of game. This results in a surprisingly unique little offering that will no doubt not appeal to everybody, but which has a fair amount going for it regardless. In terms of plot, you are an adventurer from one of three races of one of three classes, haunted by nightmares of a place called the Nexus. You journey into it, whether in search of fame, fortune, or just an escape from those nightmares that have been plaguing you. The Nexus is a hyper-dimensional ruin, combining creatures from fantasy and space across time and all places, all in a mad, random mix, all with a dash of Lovecraftian strangeness added on top. When you start Shadowcrawl, you select a character's race between three options. Trogloth are your primitive, hard-hitting beast creatures, humans who are well-balanced but a little bit higher on the tech end of things, and Nin who are dexterous and suited for stealth and ranged play. You then select between three classes. The Knight is a fighter class, the Engineer is what passes for a caster in this game, and then Ghosts are your ranged and stealth-based class. You are then dropped into the Nexus. If you've played a particular class and race combo before, you might be able to start at a deeper level if you advanced farther into the game. The game all takes place on one screen, where you move around a tile-based map, explore, talk to NPCs, pick up items, and fight enemies. Lots and lots of enemies. You may move in each of the cardinal directions, and moving into an enemy will engage them with a melee attack. You may also use certain skills based on either your class, your gear, or what you have unlocked. You may pass a turn, and you may interact with objects on the ground by pressing the appropriate keys. The most immediate thing that comes into view is just how busy the interface is. There's an area bar up top that shows which area you're in, an active quest bar that shows whatever task that you've selected and its status, a status screen button that lets you review your character's status, a compass that can show the way to various things on each level, including a rare gold chest, the level boss if there is one, and any settlement of peaceful NPCs that there might be. In the lower left is your shield and your health bulb. The character has a certain amount of shielding, called barrier, that regenerates over time, but also a red orb that shows how many actual hit points they have left. On the right-hand side of the screen, there's buttons to zoom in or zoom out, buttons for each skill available, an inventory button, and then a skip turn button. The lower half of the screen may display dialogue text when it's up, and will tell you where your character is in terms of level and what they're considered as a combination of their current skills and abilities. The main character has a few stats: strength that affects melee attacks, agility that affects thrown weapons, tech that affects the power of both spells and certain technology-based weapons, and defense that affects damage that you take. Each character may also have a number of traits based both on their class and their race, but also on certain things that you uncover during the maze. Equipping certain equipment may allow you to hide in shadows regardless of your class, and worshipping at a certain standing stone or using certain altars can also grant additional abilities. Characters also have a barrier rating, which is the shielding that they can take, and that regenerates over time, with a health rating that functions as their hit points that does not regenerate. You can take health damage directly through a barrier on some attacks, or when your barrier is reduced to 0, and if you run out of health, you die. Fortunately, you can restore it through health potions. Characters have a set number of inventory spaces, including both equipped items and consumables, so inventory management is actually a thing. Fortunately, there's just not that many items out there overall. There are a number of weapon and armor types, some of which may be more beneficial to certain classes, and some of which may allow for the use of certain abilities regardless of class, and all of which generally give bonuses to certain statistics, but in terms of non-weapon and armor types, there's only a few types of scrolls, potions, and traps that can be used. Traps generally place a triggerable trap on the ground, potions can heal the player or stun an enemy if thrown, while scrolls can recharge the barrier or launch a ranged attack, and various things like that. In terms of equipable gear, that is limited as well. Generally, characters can only equip a weapon, one piece of armor, and possibly a shield, although I'm not entirely sure if that replaces the weapon on that part. Fortunately, that's really all you need in that particular game. Generally speaking, traveling around the map can uncover all manner of obstacles. Different portals can lead to different maps, there's traps on some areas of the floor, enemies may be in an alert state or an unalert state. Alerted enemies may move towards you and try to attack, while unalerted enemies may be attacked for extra effect sometimes. Certain boss mobs may be also uncovered on the map, which are much tougher and generally place a life bar on the screen in case it wasn't busy and cluttered enough, which shows how far it's whittled down. You can uncover all sorts of chests on each level, which can be opened up to offer gear and consumables, while each level also has a gold chest that has a rarer item in it. On most levels, you can uncover friendly NPCs as well, that offer a variety of quests. Not a large variety, mind you, as most are either fetch quests or escort quests. Fetch quests usually involve bringing a particular type of NPC, a particular type of item for a reward, while escort quests involve taking an NPC to the exit gate. While partnered with an NPC, you can use their skills without actually taking your turn, so you effectively get 2 attacks while moving along with an NPC. Completing NPC quests and defeating certain bosses may unlock additional item types to find during future runs, at least at random, and may also unlock additional NPCs. Certain sub-maps also have a sort of storyline, usually seeming plucked straight from the pages of Lovecraft, involving weird, eldritch abominations from beyond space and time, and various cults that worship them and that you can actually join, which grant additional abilities to your character. These can be represented by artifacts that I believe can be carried over from playthrough to playthrough. The gameplay is simple and quick once you get used to it, but in terms of graphics and sound, I see where they were going with this. It has a retro styling that looks lifted from 80s home console action games, oddly enough, with lots of bright and clashing colors, pixelated presentation, and so forth. The animation is pretty limited overall, although there are plenty of particle effects for attacks and overlay images for when you're struck with certain types of effects. Almost too much, really, because if you're really sensitive to such things, it can be a bit of a problem. There are additionally a number of filters to make it look like various forms of CRT display. The music is also a sort of chiptune style, made to sound like it's from a primitive synth. It's done with an intentionally off-putting theme to evoke the cosmic horror elements of the game, but that kind of plays against it as well. Unless you're a real fan of that sort of presentation, it can quickly devolve into repetitive noise. The interface is, as I said, busy, too cluttered really, although, again, I can see the aesthetic that they were going for. That having been said, if you like that aesthetic, the game does stand out from others that do have similar retro themes, simply by being inspired by a slightly different flavor of retro style. Aside from finding the graphics and the sound kind of grating after the while, I actually genuinely enjoyed this one. It plays a bit faster than the usual roguelikes that I've become accustomed to, although I must admit that much of my enjoyment might have come from when my human engineer found a blaster and managed to earn the title Laser Assassin by vaporizing pretty much everything in sight. There's just something I found about that was pleasing. Its pricing is a bit modest, and if you can find it on sale, then so much the better. For now, though, I think I'll leave it off at that. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday, Shadowcrawl: The Dark Pilgrimage. As always, the link will be in the description below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Not that subscribing does much anymore, thank you, YouTube. I'd like to thank my current supporters as well, whether they have contributed through Patreon, through Subscribestar, or by direct contribution. Without you, I would not be able to continue producing these videos, and I really do need to express my gratitude more often. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you're still watching this far, I'd like to take a moment to thank those who have supported this channel via Patreon or direct donations throughout the years, without which this channel could not have lasted as long as it has. For those who are feeling particularly generous, you can still support my work through Patreon and now through Subscribestar as well, through the links in the description below.